As we reported, Egypt plans a news conference. This it continues as questions, I should say, continue as to what caused the crash. Michael Planey is an airline technology consultant. He's here in our studio. Lots of theories out there, and want to get your thoughts.
Well, right now, I don't think we have enough credible information to make any determinations. We've heard from multiple authorities, the Russians, the British, the Egyptians, the French, all have a stake in this investigation. They've all issued statements, but they're not speaking with one voice. So it's very difficult to tell who has what information and which information is the most accurate at any given time.
And it's always this desire, everybody wants to jump to conclusions, and a lot of times you end up heading down the wrong path. So let's talk about what we do know, which is we've got a mess on our hands.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about what your thoughts are as you watch all these people trying to get out of there. I mean, you hear these passengers saying it's confusing. Obviously, there's probably all these layers of security that probably weren't in place before. I mean, it's kind of, there's a lot of chaos there, isn't there?
Well, I think, unfortunately, from the passenger perspective, chaos is the word that you would use. You first go to the airline says we have the intention to operate flights to get you out, but then they're overruled either by the local airport authority or by their home government. The British Foreign Ministry is really the ones who said, we're suspending the flights to and from the UK out of Egypt right now, or out of Sharm el-Sheikh in particular. But the airlines were actually sending empty aircraft to ferry those passengers home at the time that announcement was made. They diverted back to the UK empty-handed. It doesn't seem like right now there is a singular effort to determine the right path. I think the Egyptian airport authorities in particular are very concerned because the number of passengers who were hoping to depart over the past week continues to grow. They have upwards of 50,000 British and Russian tourists stranded, essentially, with no easy way or easy path to get home in the next week.
And what are your thoughts? I mean, if I'm one of those passengers, how long am I waiting, do you think?
Not to be too flippant about it, but I hope you have a good, clean beach towel and plenty of suntan lotion at this point. I think you're looking at a week to 10 days before being able to move enough people out can relieve the backlog. They talked about originally a plan to only allow passengers to fly with a very small carry-on item, maybe 5 kilograms worth of carry-on baggage. The problem is there's no place to put all of the rest of the baggage that would have been checked. The airport authorities at Sharm el-Sheikh have said, we don't have a spare hangar. We can't store 10 or 12 or 15,000 bags indefinitely until we can figure out a plan to get the bags back. So they're the ones who are limiting this, not always because of security, but partially because of logistics. They cannot move that many people in and out of the airport in that quick of a time. It just doesn't work.
One of the things, a year after 9/11, I did an interview with the CEO of Delta, and he talked about how planes land, they take off, that you know, once you interrupt this system, it can be very difficult for the airlines themselves to get their equilibrium back. Talk to me about that whole system, what this does to the system in terms of planes flying in and out. It can be confusing for the airlines as well, and also the tourism aspect. It's got to be very, very difficult for Egypt.
It is, and let's go to your first point. The logistics of trying to move 15 or 20,000 people at one time, that's almost the same scale as it's almost a refugee crisis in some ways. The airlines do not have multiple aircraft sitting around waiting for passengers to show up. They're built into their normal operations schedule. They don't have those spares just waiting to send somewhere to pick up 400, 500 people. They're also limited by the fact that the airport may or may not have enough gates to handle the largest aircraft. If you originally were going to send a 737 and decide you want to send a 747 instead, the airport may not be able to accommodate that aircraft or 12 of those aircraft simultaneously. It's going to take a long time because they're going to have to rely on either charter service or perhaps military cargo aircraft that can be reconfigured for civilian purposes to try and move this many people very quickly. As for the tourism aspect, I think Sharm el-Sheikh is going to be facing a real crisis over the next couple of years. I think the best analogy is what we saw what happened in Bali after the bombings in 2002 and then later again in, I think, 2005. It takes 2 to 3 years in many cases for the economy to even really get back to 50 or 75% of the tourism because people have a lot of choices where to go. They can stay closer to home. They can travel farther abroad. But there are too many choices for them. If you say, well, I'm not feeling safe going here, you have 13 other options, 14 other options that are a click away. It's very easy, and it's hard to recover that trust until you've had a year or two without any additional incidents.
Yeah.
I think the Egyptian tourism is in real trouble.
It's going to be trouble for them. There's no doubt about it. Thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate you coming in.
You're welcome. Thank you.